Welcome everybody. We just wait a couple more minutes for people to join and then we'll get started. Okay, wonderful. Right, well, welcome Protect customers to our next webinar in our series. Today we have Mike Wakeham, our Client Services Director from our Hampton Knight provider, which is an alcohol and drugs and COVID-19 testing service. And he's just going to detail the drug and alcohol misuse in the workplace and how we can tackle it. So over to you.
Thanks, Alice. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining this morning. As Alice said, we at Hampton Knight, we cover alcohol and drug testing, and what I'll go through this morning is just an overview of the services that we provide, how that relates to you as a business, and sort of just a few key things that you need to consider when looking at alcohol and drug testing in the workplace. There is a function, I think, to do any Q&As, so if you've got any questions, there is a function on there that you can ask a question, and what we'll do is sort of 10-15 minutes at the end, we'll just run through anything, and I'll try my best to answer. If there is anything I need to take away, we will get back to you and obviously let you know the right answer. So we'll go into each of these in more detail in the following slides, but this just provides a very brief overview of what we do. I think just to start with, Hampton Knight has been doing alcohol and drug testing within the workplace for around 21 years now. This is our 21st year. So we've actually seen the sort of industry and the way it's developed in the UK workspace over that time, and have worked with companies from sort of large multinationals right through to small businesses, and sort of work with on each of these elements. So I think the key one, and something that as a business you need to consider from the outset really, is making sure that you have the right policy in place. So your drug and alcohol policy is actually really critical, because it's something that will guide the overall policy and testing, but it's also the document that you'll use when you do have a situation. So if you do have a case where you have to test, or if you get a positive result, it's something that you will use as your guide. So it's very important that not only is it legally robust, but it's also operationally effective as well. And we have a dedicated policy development team that will actually work with you, and either they can sort of look at your current policy and offer suggestions, or we also have a template policy that we can work with you on and make sure that it replicates your other policies from that side. So I think the key thing from there is, if you are looking to introduce this or just refresh it of what you've got at the moment, the policy is always the first place to start. Just running through the other areas. So alongside the policy is our training services. This is really key when you're launching a policy or when you're refreshing it. So I'll go into a bit more detail on our training services shortly. I'll also look at the testing services, so both in terms of our services, so we offer a collection service which is 24/7, but also we can offer you the option of doing your own testing. So should you wish to do it in-house, you can purchase products from us and also get training to make sure that the people that are going to do the testing on your behalf within your business are competently trained. And then a couple of other bits and pieces, so the 24-hour management support service that we've got, and then the sort of final thing that we'll touch on, which is becoming very, very important now and a lot more prevalent within the workplace, is the support to offer your employees that do have a genuine dependency, whether they come forward or it's something they want to discuss with you as an employer. We have a couple of options that you can go down in terms of counselling services, and also something called assurance testing, which helps them get back to work really. Okay, sorry, just having a bit of a delay on the slides. So, as I said, one of the key things that goes alongside the policy is that when you come to launch it into the workspace, or if you just want a refresher, the communication channels to your employees is really key, just so that they understand the reasons for the policy and the testing. They know kind of the ins and outs of it. And I think the other side of it, from your managers and supervisors' perspective, is that they have the confidence to deal with a situation. They can follow it through, and they can handle it in the best possible way. So a couple of things to be aware of. The first thing is that we offer awareness training for both managers and supervisors, and we also offer awareness training for employees. The sessions differ slightly, but they can be delivered on site or remote via a webinar service. The managers and supervisors training, it covers 3 key areas. The first one is that it will go through just some general awareness about alcohol and drugs, talking through things like signs and symptoms, what you should be looking out for, the kind of different effects on the body depending on the type of drug. So whether it's a stimulant, hallucinogenic, depressant, those kind of things. It will then also talk through your policy. So we will obviously refer to your specific policy, so that the manager and supervisor are aware of it. They know what they can and can't do, and they again have confidence to deal with it. And then the final thing is actually dealing with an incident. So should they have a situation where they have an accident, or they suspect somebody may be impaired at work, they know what to do, how to use either our service or obviously test in-house if that's your preferred option. The good thing about these sessions, we have been running these for well over 15 years now, is that they're very much done in a kind of like a case study approach or a consultancy approach, because it's quite a very useful topic, and most people that attend our sessions have an awful lot of questions because of obviously drugs and alcohol, maybe some experiences they've had personally or as managers. So when we get feedback from these, we always get that kind of feedback that it was very interactive, and the attendees got a lot out of it, and our trainers are very knowledgeable, so a lot of the questions that get thrown at them, they're able to give sort of assurance and the right answers to your teams. So that's the management side from awareness perspective. From an employee perspective, these are normally larger sessions, so more people can join them. And they are a little bit shorter. They're a bit more like a toolbox talk or a briefing. But the key thing here is that we cover similar sort of things. So a bit of awareness about drink and drugs, how long, say, alcohol stays in the body, some of the stuff around drugs, again, what effects they have. So if they are working with somebody, they can, they can spot any signs and symptoms themselves. And then the other thing as well is we talk about the policy and how it refers to them and what their responsibilities are with it. So it's very useful, and again, it's a very much an interactive session, so normally we get quite a lot of questions and queries, which again our trainers can support with. So the final thing on the training, and again very important from a communications perspective, is that alongside the training we have a wide sort of I suppose a suite is the best word to use, of different materials and information that you can use. So whether it's videos, posters, booklets, leaflets, which can support the message and help your employees and managers implement the policy and obviously manage the testing program. Okay, so testing types. These are some of the different options that you can utilize either on a regular basis or just making sure that it's in your policy, so you do have the option. So some companies utilize new starter testing, so as people join the business they are given a test on that side. We've then got what's called for cause, or sometimes referred as with cause, and incident testing. So this is where there has been something that's happened on site or a suspicion of somebody impaired. And I'll talk about our 2-hour response shortly regards to our testing services. We've then got random testing, which is always, well, it's the best deterrent within the workplace for reducing drug and alcohol usage. And we can manage your program for you, or you can utilize us when you need us. And then the final thing, which I will go into a bit more detail on with the counselling side, is what's called assurance testing. So this is where you have somebody that's got a dependency. They've either come forward or they've indicated that they've got an issue, and where the business can and wants to support them, you can put in place assurance testing where, alongside their other provisions like counselling, EAP, those kind of things, they'll get tested on a regular basis just to make sure that from a health and safety perspective, they are sort of meeting the terms of that rehabilitation programme. So in terms of our services, so from Hampton Knight's perspective, is that we are 24/7. So our collection service and our, I suppose our phone lines are open 24 hours. The reason for this is that a lot of our clients are 24-hour operations or shifts as well. So in terms of the kind of support and advice you'll get during implementation and the kind of setup stage, it's there. And we found that when we launch policies and testing within new businesses, when it's new to the business, it's important to have that. So we've had a recent large retail chain that has joined us, and it's the first time they've done any testing. And they've just got a lot of questions of that first sort of for a few weeks, just while they do the first round of testing, the first round of random testing. They just have a lot of questions around, some of the little operational things that crop up. So they know that we're on hand, and all our clients know that we're on hand to support them, whether it's by email or phone. We can get the right answers to them. Moving forward, the way it works really well is that where you may have people that are 24 hours, but you don't have, say, 24-hour coverage from a HR perspective or a line management perspective, your managers and supervisors have that access, so that should they have something that happen on site and they're not quite sure what to do, they can give us a call and we can talk it through with them. We can advise them on, based on their policy, this is what they can and can't do, this is what we advise, and obviously we can support on that as well. And then the final point you can see there is that if you do get a situation where you have a positive alcohol or drug situation and it's going through a disciplinary process, we can support from the technical and the testing side. So if there's any mitigation that's raised or any queries around the testing process and lab result, we can go through that with you and give you the right information from that side. Okay, so we looked at testing types a couple of slides ago. So I'm just going to talk about our testing service to begin with. So the way that we do it was we split it into two sides. You'll see there an unscheduled and a scheduled service. The unscheduled service is for more for kind of like for cause, with cause and post-incident testing. So anywhere where there's an incident on site or a situation on site and you basically need us there ASAP, we offer a 2-hour response time across the whole of the UK mainland. And currently, I think looking at our last stats, we're about 98% across the UK, which is the best response time in the UK market at the moment from a collection service perspective. And it's something that we're really proud of in terms of that kind of infrastructure that we've got. And what that means is that you call us out, we'll be there within 2 hours, and obviously our collection technicians will deliver the test, take any samples, and if it needs to go back to the lab for confirmation testing, then they will manage all that for you. The result then will come back to you, whether it's negative, non-negative, negative or positive, and you'll get, if it is positive, you'll get what's called a medical review officer that signs it off to confirm the outcome of the result. In terms of scheduled service, this is where you can normally, it's where you can book in the testing. So as it says there, it's a minimum of 24 hours notice, but generally this is used for anything that you can schedule in. So random testing, new starter testing, assurance testing, and basically you just call us up or email us, we'll book it in, and our collection technicians will turn up on that time and carry out that testing for you. And again, the same process, they'll follow the correct procedures, and also everything is governed from a UCAS accreditation perspective with the lab. And then again, if it is a positive result, you'll get the medical review form as well.
Hi, Mike. We've had a question. How is this managed under the contract of employment?
So I think in terms of this question, it's regards to the drug and alcohol policy and how it relates to contracts. So basically, you can make it non-contractual, which allows you to kind of amend and deal with it in that way. We do recommend that it is classed as non-contractual rather than in the contract of employment. Effectively, with drug and alcohol testing, it forms part of your drug and alcohol policy, which links very closely to your health and safety policy. So basically that from a drug and alcohol perspective is that you don't have anybody knowingly on site that could be impaired with those side of things. So hopefully that's helped and answered that question.
Thank you, Mike.
Sorry, the slides are just being a bit slow again. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Just to run through some of the methods of testing that we have. So what you can see there in the images are basically the first one there is our what we use is a line alcometer. So effectively it's a breathalyzer that is used for alcohol testing. The device that we use is Home Office approved, so the result from it is legally defensible, so it will give you a result and it's calibrated every 6 months again, just to meet those sort of the legal defensibility of the testing. The next two options are around drug testing. So the two main methods within workplace testing is urine or oral fluid. You can choose either or. There are pros and cons to either. Most safety critical industries will use urine just because of slightly longer detection windows. But some businesses from I suppose ease of use, especially if there's not facilities on site, will tend to go for the oral fluid option. But like I said, both are legally defensible methods, but the main difference is just in terms of the detection windows that they provide. In terms of the drug types, we have a 6-panel and a 10-panel. What that means is it tests for either 6 drugs or 10 drugs, and they are the main or the most common drugs that you would find within the workplace or generally. So things like cocaine, cannabis, opiates, those kind of things. So it covers all those sides. The key difference with drug testing, though, is that you can have an indication on site. So you can have what's called a negative, where there's no reaction to any of the drug types, or you get what's called a non-negative, which basically means there has been a reaction to one of the drug types, but it does need laboratory confirmation to determine whether it's a positive sample, because sometimes you might find that it's medication that's flagged it. So, for example, with opiates, it could be a codeine medication that's kind of triggered that non-negative result. So you just need the lab confirmation to confirm that. So they're the main methods of testing. And like I said earlier, they can be delivered either by our collection network. So our collection technicians come to site, or the products that we use can be purchased, and we can provide the training so that you can test in-house as well. So effectively, this just goes through the drug testing process in a bit more detail to what I've said. So essentially what you've got is the test and collect by a competently trained person. So again, that could either be our collection technicians or somebody in your business. You'll either get a point of care kit, which is one of the test kits, which will give you a negative or non-negative, or a laboratory. You can do a straight to lab test if required. Confirmation analysis is only done at the lab, so you'll never get a positive on site. It's not legally defensible, and you wouldn't have it, as I said, because of the potential for it being medication, or even they're designed slightly different in technology. So the lab confirmation is your key result. For any positives, as I said earlier, is that an occupational physician will review that. So they're trained in toxicology, so they'll be able to interpret the result and sign that off as like I said, a negative or a positive. And then in terms of outcomes, they're the options that you'll get. So even though it might be non-negative on site, it can still come back as a negative when it goes to lab confirmation. It can be negative because it's consistent with medication. So if the donor has, for example, declared a codeine and it is an opiate, it could be consistent with the medication they're taking. If it's positive, it means it's come up as a positive sample for an illegal substance, and obviously be classed as positive. And then very, very occasionally, it can sometimes be invalid. Generally with that, this outcome, it's normally when the integrity checks have not been met. So things like dilution and those kind of things, which would flag it as invalid. And what we tend to advise an endpoint is just a retest to take that sample again. So I'm just conscious of time. So just in case there are any more questions, but the last couple of slides now. So as I said earlier, one of the big things that is key for businesses now is that should you have somebody that comes forward with what we class as a dependency, which basically means they can't function without drink or drugs in their system. If they're keen to obviously rehabilitate themselves and you're looking to support them as a business, we do have an option where they can go through counselling, which you will obviously work with them on. So basically it starts very much as an initial assessment and report. So the counsellor will give their observations of the individual and what they think is the correct approach for this person, whether it's continued counselling, if it's any other interventions that are required. We do work very closely. So if you do have an occupational health provider, if it is obviously Protect, Medigold, or anything along those lines, or if you have an EAP provision in place, then we work very closely with those to make sure that it's a very much a joined up approach. And then alongside that, with the kind of counselling services, that the assurance side of testing is implemented as well, so that because you've effectively, from a health and safety perspective, you have a known drink or drug user on the sort of premises, the counselling and obviously the adjustments you might need to make from their job perspective if it is a safety critical role, but also that you're testing them on a regular basis just to make sure that they are meeting those requirements from their side. Just to finish off, I think we've got a few more minutes. As I said earlier, these are just, I suppose, a few key things from our side. So, like I said, guaranteed 2-hour response time anywhere in the UK, most comprehensive coverage from a collections network perspective. With drug and alcohol testing, there are some key standards that we meet. So we're fully compliant with the UK, and it's called the European Workplace Drug Testing Society. So that's the guidelines that all providers work to as a standard. They also set the guidelines around the laboratory confirmations in terms of cut-off levels and those kind of things. And then we also have a couple of other accreditations. So we are risks accredited, so we can work with you for any network rail testing and those kind of things. And then from a business perspective, we are CQOSH accredited as well. So we get audited every year, which is anyone that goes for a risks audit knows it's a good fun. So we cover all that off. And I think the final thing, which, to be honest, from a business perspective, we've been doing it for a long time, and it's probably one of the most critical things, is that we are here to support you, and we are here on hand, so that should you have any queries, questions, anything that you need from a support perspective. We know drug and alcohol testing, you might not need it that often, you might not need it at all for long stretches of time, but when you do, it is quite an important topic, because you are dealing with your employees and their potential disciplinary processes. So we are here to sort of kind of support and give you all the kind of facts and information you need to make key decisions. So as I said, whether it's process related, implementation related, or disciplinary perspective, or anything else, we are here 24/7 to kind of support and guide you through that kind of process. So I think that wraps everything up from a kind of an overview perspective. If there is any questions, obviously I can go through now, but if anybody has anything that they may want to kind of question later or just want more information, then obviously you can contact us and we can provide you some information.
That's great. Thanks so much, Mike. That was really informative. We've had one question which has come in to say that Is this part of the Protect service, or is it in addition to? It's in addition to, but we can provide you with information regarding that, and I'll get that over to you. If there is any questions, like Mike said, after this, then please email the Protect mailbox and we will get those answered for you. But thank you all for attending, and thank you, Mike, for your time. That was great.
Thanks, Alice. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.